What up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at JConcepts Scorpios. JConcepts Scorpios coming in at $56 for a set, $52 for a set. Yeah, can't remember. Around $56 a set, just call them. Probably JConcepts' least popular tire, if I had to guess. I don't see a lot of Scorpios out in the wild, but I still think they're pretty good. Of course, anything in JConcepts green compound can't be that bad. Inside the Scorpios today, we're running Three Brothers dual stage 3D inserts. And those are wrapped around just some Amazon 8-hole beadlock wheels. Now, because we're running Scorpios, because we have dual stage 3D inserts, we are taking the deeper line for the side hill, which is underneath this crack right here. My driver's side tire goes under this crack and above this crack. Tires that don't do as well have to kind of take this line above it, but then you risk falling into that crack and rolling out. But it's steeper down here, and so you mitigate some of that risk of falling in that crack, but you have a much steeper side hill. But I think the Scorpios are going to be okay, although I am having to put some decent steering input in to keep them from sliding sideways. And once we get to this crack right here, this one right here, this is kind of our indicator that it's time to start turning up. Now with these, I'm going to go over that crack. You don't want to turn on that crack because you do fall down in that crack a little bit. But just past it, we'll start turning up. And what we want is to see that rear end slide a little bit, help us rotate around. Scorpio is very predictable, doing exactly what I want them to do. Definitely more of an all-terrain lug than most of JConcepts' other tires. Not modeled after anything one-to-one. You know, I mean, some of their tires are kind of inspired by a one-to-one, like the Tusk is inspired by a Baja Pro XS Mickey Thompson tire. But the Scorpios, sorry, are just kind of their own thing. It is worth noting that on 2.5 of my 4 tires, the lugs are pretty loaded with dry mud right now. So I'm hoping that through this run, it'll get them cleaned off. We are going to run through some water a little bit, get them a little wet. So hopefully that'll help. No issues at all repositioning on the side hill. No issues at all really with side slide, just a minimal amount. The slide that you do see is when there's large pockets in the rock surface, you know, the big differences in the height of the surface of the rock. Of course, when you start falling down in one of those pockets, you're going to slide a little bit, but just overall, just side slide, there's not a lot to worry about here. And quite frankly, I'm not sure why Scorpios don't appear to be more popular. And again, all I can really go off of is based off of what I generally see in my area. But even with other videos and stuff, you just don't hear a lot about Scorpios. But if I had to say another tire that is similar to Scorpios from another brand, I would say Proline trenchers are kind of similar. The lug design is not that similar, but you know, the lug spacing, we have a lot of small lugs spaced relatively close together. And that's what both the trencher and the Scorpio do. But honestly, that works pretty well. That's a pretty good setup for a crawling tire, as it turns out, at least in my area. Again, if you're new to the channel, as you can see, we're crawling primarily on sandstone, located here in Kansas. I come out to one of several lakes to do my crawling. This one is kind of where my makeshift course is to do these tire reviews. But sandstone being a high grip surface, you know, I definitely get the opportunity for a tire to perform as well as it's going to perform. But so far, Scorpio's doing the thing. Really good on the side hill. Not one single issue. Coming up to our, well, the water obstacle that we have this weekend, considering our normal one is underwater because the water level in the lake is up. So this really is more of a opportunity to get the tires wet than it is an actual obstacle. But we'll get them wet and we'll drive through enough water here to where they'll stay wet for a couple obstacles so we can get a good idea of wet performance of the Scorpio. First one coming up here. Minor incline, nothing special here, but Scorpio's doing good. So far this weekend, the weather's been really nice. I'm about halfway through my first day. I'm out here for 3 days, and I'm about halfway through my first day, and we're supposed to possibly get a couple rain showers this morning and a thunderstorm, but none of that hit, at least where I'm at. And the sun's out. There's a light breeze, the temperature's nice, and it's really been perfect. Haven't really been any issues at all. About the only thing that's happened that's kind of been inconvenient is, so I am out here in a state park. It's public land, but you do reserve campsites. And I've reserved a campsite, and 2 different people today have come and parked basically in my campsite to go down and go fishing. Now, I don't own the lake. We're on private or public land. I don't own the campsite. They didn't actually park in my campsite, just literally right next to it. So, I mean, they're not doing anything necessarily like wrong, but it's just super weird. And I am in a part of the state park that is a primitive campground. There's probably 25 or 30 different camping sites out here. I'm the only one camping out here. And really, it's still early in the season. There's not a lot of people. I drove through the park before I came over here, and there's not a lot of people in any of the spots in the park. And it's just so annoying to me when people choose like the one spot where somebody's at to park and decide that they're gonna go do something too. Again, they're not doing anything wrong, and they haven't bothered me. I don't know why it annoys me. I just think it's weird. There's enough room here to not sit on top of each other. You know, people, we typically come out, especially to primitive campgrounds, to get away from people, not stack up on top of each other and be fucking weirdos. But to each his own. Scorpio's having a little problem here, getting up on this ledge. Rear tires, being wet, have definitely loaded up there with some dirt. Might have to try a bump here to get up. There we go. Nice easy bump. Really good reposition there on that side hill. And now coming off the side hill. Oh, don't shove that. There we go. Oh man, the second time that's happened to me today. Ooh, let's go reset. But again, back to people coming out here and parking right next to my campsite and then fishing right. I mean, they're not like right next to me, but they're close. It's not something I'm mad about. And I don't, like I said, I don't think people are doing anything wrong. And part of it is, my wife tells me she thinks I have a touch of autism. I'm very undiagnosed, but I do have a lot of social oddities, I guess. And so that's just not something I would ever consider doing. If I was coming out here, wanted to go fishing, and was driving around looking for a spot, if I saw somebody camping, or honestly, even they weren't camping and they were just already there and fishing, I would go to somewhere else. We're at a big ass lake. There's 1,000 places to go fishing, and the spot that I'm in is not like this hot to trot fishing spot. It's this little cove area with a boat ramp, and honestly, there's some spots on the other side of this cove that I can see from here. Right over there across the water, that rock bank over there, that's a really, really good fishing spot. And it's like a well-known fishing spot. Anyway, shouldn't complain about it. They're just people using the state park. They're probably taxpayers too. They pay for it as much as I do. But I just think that there's some loss of manners there. Scorpio's still doing a good job. Having a little bit of issues getting on some of these obstacles. A little bit of that might be because that water didn't do a very, very good job of cleaning out the lugs. I need to soak these tires and really clean them. The mud that got stuck in there is like clay, and it's just not coming out. Although with this Fusion Pro, maybe I can use some wheel speed and get some out. But I don't believe that that is most of it. I think that we might just be seeing some of the limitation of a Scorpio with that tightly packed lug getting up onto some of these surfaces where the lip is smooth. There's not a lot for them to grab onto. But that's okay. Wheel speed seems to be favorable for the Scorpios. They seem to quite like that. Can I pull up over that? That driver or that passenger side rear tire is pretty loaded up though. And I can't speak to how they clear out. I mean, it's the only one that's loaded up. The other tires have cleared out, but that one was the worst one. Like when I started, that one had the most just dried mud packed in it. And I really probably should have cleared them out. All right, now here, I think the Scorpios have an opportunity to do a really good job. The goal here is for the rear tires to grip enough to not drop the truck on its nose, but to slip enough to let it down gently to where I don't have to pull it down with the front tires. Because either one of those situations, if it slips too much or it grips too much, we end up on our nose. And sometimes, even if we do it perfectly, we end up on our nose because if the driver doesn't do his job, this is just kind of a difficult exit. That's good. Here's our second opportunity to nosedive. We got to throttle modulate. There we go. Perfect. Set that rear end down. So there's the first one. Now the second one is another good indicator of control and predictability. We use the sidewall a little bit against that driver's side rock, and we modulate throttle to walk us down at the right pace. There we go. So if you go too much slower than that, the rear end wants to come over the top. And that obstacle is 50-50 driver, throttle modulation, and tire performance. But the Scorpios did really well there. I hear somebody either leaving or coming. Hopefully it says people leaving. Hopefully not coming over to this side. All right, now let's try to get up here. And as you know, we're trying to get to the right side of this rock, hook that ledge, and use the side lug to pull us up. Or on rare occasions, the tire can walk up this without help, as the Upgrade RC rock claws did impressively. Scorpio's having a little problem even getting on the obstacle. There we go. Definitely need to... Ugh. Definitely need wheel speed. So, do we have enough control to get up to the right side without bouncing all over the place? Now, what we don't want to do, we don't cheat the line. We don't come over this way and go like this, because that would be cheating, which part of that is why where my front tire is, that's why I don't have a rock there, to create a gap to make that significantly more difficult to do than it would be otherwise, so it's not tempting to cheat. Rocks down here, not well placed, making it harder to get on the obstacle. Might need to fix those. By not well placed, I mean they are out of place. There we go. That's what we need to see. Scorpios lack a lot of side lug. There's a little bit there. But we are not getting enough traction to do anything. And I am not sitting on the axle tube or the knuckle. Now I am. But we just don't have the traction. How about a little wheel speed? Too much wheel speed is going to rocket me somewhere. Oop, sliding back. That's not good. Lug's definitely still loaded. That front tire is still more loaded than I thought it was. Half of it is and half of it's not. Although I don't think that's what's impacting it right now. Right now we're dealing with lack of side lug on that front tire and lack of forward drive on the rest. Not great, Scorpios. Found a major weak link for the Scorpios right here. Much lesser tires. Well, how do I say much lesser tire if this one can't do anything? Tires that I did not expect to be able to do this have done this better than the Scorpios are doing. Yeah, it's just not pulling it. Whoop. Can we reposition? Pivot up. It's not sliding back a lot, which is good. So that's good compound. We have good grip in terms of compound, but we don't have good grip in terms of lug. And again, lugs, especially on the rear passenger, are loaded. Front passenger are kind of loaded. Driver's side's mostly clear. Driver's side rear is a little loaded. But they're also clearing out. That rear passenger is starting to clear out quite a bit. But here is where I think that close lug is not optimal. I think you need a little more lug spacing to allow those lugs to really flatten out and bite. And we're just not seeing that here. Okay, if we get momentum. Yeah, I lost my momentum. Nope. I'm trying to give it opportunity because, like, it's not slipping off the rock. I think it can do this, but this is not good. I don't really want to do more throttle than that. I gotta say, guys, that's kind of unexpected. I thought that would do better. Ooh, that. You can go ahead and skip ahead. I'm gonna give this one more shot. Nope. Ooh. Ah. Yuck. Ah. All right. That failed. So I will say, that's a pretty difficult obstacle. It's steep. It's slick. The rock is pocketed. It requires a little bit of technical driving. Like, it's a hard obstacle. But maybe I'm seeing some of why you don't see Scorpios being run a whole lot. This line here, mostly trying to keep the driver's side from falling off. And then where the front axle is going over right now, the rear pumpkin usually gets hung on that. And we need the front tires to have enough grip to pull us over. There's the pumpkin hang. Yeah, there's a lack of grip. There's definitely a lack of grip in these tires, which was not indicated early on. And that's the problem with sandstone, is sometimes it makes you a little overconfident. See if we can make the big hill or not. With the couple last obstacles, I'm kind of a glass half empty on this right now. Ooh, if we can get up, there we go. I think we'll do it. Ooh, slide back after hitting there. No, don't want to get too close to the tree because we'll hang the slider on that tree. I've run out of forward drive. Let's slow down. Getting too much bounce. Slow down, find. Yeah. Passenger side's on that tree. See if we can rotate it over. I will say this is also something that can happen sometimes with 3D inserts. This is actually why 3D printed inserts are not my favorite to run. I typically prefer crawler innervation foams, but I've got 25 sets of tires with me, so I don't have crawler innervations in all of them. But 3D inserts typically give you more bounce than a foam will give you. And a lot of times it's not that big of a deal, but on a tire like this that doesn't have the most grip, there you go, that bounce can kind of upset it more than it would a different tire. And once it starts bouncing, you know, it's like a pendulum. Once it starts bouncing, it's going to keep bouncing until you stop. And coming up to the last portion of our course, the trail. Nothing overly difficult left here. Just a very brief section where we kind of test the trailing capabilities of a tire. Loose surfaces and surface transitions mostly is what we're looking at. Apologies if I'm not keeping the truck completely in frame. Trying to drive, walk, talk, look at the screen, look at the truck to pay attention to where I'm driving. So this section sometimes gets a little wonky with the camera. We'll hang up on the front links here. Got to kind of bump it over. Nope. Not enough traction to get the wheel speed for the bump, but we kind of managed to muscle it over. Pull up here. This little obstacle is actually more difficult than it looks, but it's not extremely difficult. Scorpio is not really having any issue there. A little bit of hesitation, but nothing too bad. And lastly, we come up to our gravel hill climb, where we try to get up with as little throttle or little wheel speed as possible, little throttle input. But I've got to pay attention and not drive over boulders. There's one right there. Got to go between. There we go. Yeah, that's good. Very little throttle input required. Scorpio is doing good there. Pretty good trail tire. One of the people left. They're still here. This is my campsite. But the one that really annoyed me parked right there. Like in my campsite pretty much. I mean, there's my tent. And that's why it bothered me. Again, it's not the end of the world. Definitely a first world problem kind of thing, but I just think it's rude. Oh, that breeze feels good. Alright, so overall, where are we at with the Scorpios? Honestly, I think the Scorpios are a decent trailing tire. After some of what I saw, I don't think I would use them as a regular rock crawling tire compared to other things that are out there. If you really like the lug design, they do decently, but I think that they're a lot more capable on trails than they are rocks. But the problem is, they are JConcepts green, which isn't a bad compound. I don't mean it that way. I just mean it's a pretty soft and sticky compound, so you're going to wear them out quickly on the trails, I guess, or more quickly than you would other tires anyhow. So yeah, I understand why you don't see them a lot. It's kind of hard to recommend. It's not because they're a bad tire, but they're not that great of a tire, and I don't really see an area where they would excel. So, till next time, everybody, have a good day.